There is one thing I'm going to point out today that we Christians get wrong so much of the time. And what we get wrong is we rely too much, or we put too much responsibility on professional pastors and ministers and missionaries and gifted evangelists to get the Great Commission work accomplished. And today's episode is very good at hitting this out of the park. So without further ado, let's welcome Jeff Phillips to the Living Enviado podcast.
So, hey, Jeff, thanks for joining me today. I know you just are you still jet lagged?
A little bit.
You just got back from somewhere?
Yeah, we just got back from Kenya on Friday. So
Friday.
at my age, it takes a little longer to get over jet lag. So I'm still a little tired.
Any issues with what's going on over? I know you weren't in the Middle East, but I mean, close enough.
So we our flight coming back, we flew through Doha. So on Friday,
Any issues with that?
just our flight was moved up 6 hours so we could get out. So we were supposed to leave at 1 a.m. on Saturday morning. We actually left at 6 p.m. on Friday. Funny story. We were doing our team outing. There was 16 of us there. We were doing our team outing, so we did the national park, the Wildlife National Park in Nairobi. So we just finished going through it. We sat down to lunch. We'd ordered our food. I looked at our itinerary, and the flight had been moved up till 6. It was 3 o'clock. So we were flying out in 3 hours. 40 minutes from the airport.
Was that because of what was happening?
They never gave us a reason, but it must have been to get people through Doha. You know, it's the only thing that I could think of. Sitting there at 3 o'clock, 30 minutes from the airport, 40 minutes from the airport. Our luggage is at the hotel. So, but God's grace, we made it. So it
made it in time.
Everybody made it through Doha safely.
Yeah, because there were some missiles launched. What was that? I'll say 48 hours from the recording of this into Doha or into Qatar.
Into Qatar, yeah. So that was Sunday, and we arrived home Friday. So
nice. God's
timing is always perfect.
You know, I've been in the process of planning a trip to Bethlehem. Was planning a trip to Bethlehem. That is now being nixed for the time being.
We'll see if this piece works, and then you might have to reschedule it for just a few months.
Yeah, I know. Everyone keeps asking me. So it's just been a weird year for me because I haven't traveled very much. Mm-hmm. I've been on 2 international trips only this year, and it's almost July.
Yeah, that's unusual for you.
Yeah, and people keep asking me, so when are you leaving? I don't know. I really don't. Every time I plan something gets in the way, and now we've got this mess over there.
Yeah. So, as your good friend and my pastor says, no safer place in the center of God's will. So, if He wants you there, it'll be good.
It will be if I can find a plane ticket to get me there.
Yeah.
The reason I invited you on here is, I really have enjoyed learning about your past, and of course I've known you for a while, off and on. I mean, and you're part of a church that is partnering with my day job, the ministry I'm a part of. And so I've gotten to know a lot about just you as a business person, because you're not a pastor, you're not a professional missionary, anything like that. Nothing wrong with those people. I was that. Our good friend Jimmy is in that world, but you came out of what did you come out of?
The majority of my business life at Fidelity Investments. So I live in Greenville, Texas, and I worked in Westlake, Texas, which is about 70 miles, and I did that commute every day.
East or west?
It would be driving west. You should always live east of where you work, so you're never driving into the sun. So that's
smart.
So if you have an opportunity to do that, that'd be good. So spent a lot of time on the road driving back and forth, but spent about 19-20 years with Fidelity. Left there as a senior vice president, and then in the middle of that 19-20 years, I took a 5-year job somewhere else, and I was at Sabre, their chief procurement officer for 5 years there. So about 24 to 25 years driving back and forth to the Metroplex, flying all over the world. So did that. COVID hit, March of 20. March 2020, they sent everyone home. I had always had the desire and plan to retire at 55, and there was an opportunity for me to leave early, so I retired in July of 20, right in the middle of COVID, and just was very blessed and fortunate to be able to do that. the plan that I had in place to do all that just came together early. So I retired in July of 2020, July 1st, 2020. Almost next week will be 5 years.
So retirement to, John Piper.
Yes.
He talks about picking up seashells
Mhm.
on the seashore in
Yeah.
retirement. Was it that, or as you play golf?
I actually don't play
Oh,
golf.
you don't? I
I
thought you did
don't.
play golf.
No, I don't. So never picked
Was
up,
it to
never
play
had time.
golf? Was it to just travel the world with your wife?
I'd love to learn how to play golf. I'd love to pick up seashells on the seashore. I'd love to travel, but I'm probably busier now than I was when I was working. I just don't get paid for it. So I serve on multiple boards. As you know, I was on your board for a while and enjoyed every minute of that. I do some board work for Boys and Girls Club, for RAFA, which is a pro-life center here in town. Do community service. I'm an elder here at the church, and as you know, I go on mission trips from time to time. So it wasn't retirement from; it was retirement to. I wanted to be, available, and when God called me to go, I want to be able to go.
So apart from the local stuff, you talked about doing international trips.
Mhm.
Is it just to do a mission trip?
I've worked, so youngest of 8 kids, first generation college graduate, middle to lower income growing up,
Mm-hmm.
in our family. I've always had this thing on the mission field is I want to teach them how to fish instead of just keep giving them fish.
Hmm.
So I don't think it does anyone any good when, Americans or Europeans or whoever just keep spending money after money after money. It doesn't help anyone to do anything for themselves. So, in part of that, there is a food, water, and shelter aspect. If someone is hungry, they need to be fed. But I don't want to. Here's the gospel and the sandwich right here. I don't want them to accept salvation for a sandwich. That's not doing anyone any good. So we need to feed them. We need to make sure they got clean water. We need to make sure they have shelter and get those needs taken care of. And then obviously talk to them, because the only thing that matters is the gospel, in the end. So definitely do that. But then from that, there's a few individuals that we're able to identify to go through a business process with. So most, and I'll just use Kenya for example, most people are entrepreneurs or they can't survive anyway. So we want to target individuals that have the aptitude to understand basic business principles, find them a business that they can start, find someone that can grant that startup cost of them, but there's some things that is paramount. They have to be self-sufficient in 18 months. So they have to be generating their own income and no more additional grants coming after 18 months. After 36 months, they'll have to invest in another business for someone else. So not only are they paying their bills, putting some back, but for their family, but they're putting money back to actually invest in another business. We're trying to have a generational impact, and this is going to take a generation to turn, right? So there are individuals that have been identified. A good friend of mine, Mike, he's the brainchild behind this. He's 90% of the effort going on in this business entrepreneurial ministry we have going on, and I'm able to kind of ride his coattails and be a part of that. But they go through maybe a 6 to 9 month program with Mike or I, teaching them principles of business. And when I was in Kenya just this last week, there was one business that wasn't going to make it, and we had to say, this is not going to be profitable, so we're not going to authorize a grant for this. So now that gentleman is finding another business, which is fine. So we just don't automatically say yes. It could be a 6 to 9 month process just for them to understand basic principles, because as you know, in third world countries, you got to pay for education. It's not free. Some of these people have 8th grade educations, but they know how to farm. They know how to do electrical work. They know how to weld. So some of these things. So we're able to do things like that. I'm real proud of that ministry is where it's going. There's a sewing program now that's been started, a sewing school. There's different farming aspects where people are farming and selling corn to the market, sugar cane to the market. Beans will probably start here within the next several months. So yeah, it's more than just going and feeding a few kids and building a house here or there, and then coming home to my world and not forgetting and forgetting about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of that. I'm invested in that country.
I like the part where you're talking about the most important thing is the gospel, which I agree with.
Hmm.
I mean, they're out of everything we do and say, that is paramount above all things. But
Absolutely.
we can't ignore when they're hungry or homeless
Hmm.
or just fill in the blank of whatever bad experiences they're going through. It reminded me of a story I heard from a bit. He was sent out as a traditional missionary, but in doing that, he started a business, and I can't remember where. I just remember him talking about going to North Africa for a visit. He had $100,000 in hand,
Hmm.
and he was going to explore three projects. So one was digging wells, working with orphans, and I can't remember the third one. So as he's going around researching which one he's going to give to, asking questions, he hired a local Christian guy to drive him around. At the end of the week, he just looked at the guy and said, "Hey, you've heard all the stories. You know the culture. You know the people. You know what I want to do. So you tell me where you want me to put my money. $100,000." And the driver looked at him and said, "Keep your money." He says, "If you want to help us, do like what you said, teach us to fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teach us how to generate wealth. Teach us how to build business, how to make them sustainable. If you teach us that, we'll fix the problem ourselves, and it'll be fixed in the long term.
That's right.
Your $100,000, the problem remains tomorrow."
Hmm. It just
Okay.
gives a little relief.
It
It-
gives a little relief, but it doesn't fix the problem.
right. And I want to, as you know, long-term ministry that my pastor had, Your Turn Ministries, kind of relaunched that. But what we want to do is partner with existing ministries. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're part of the capital C church, kingdom-minded mindset and all those things that Christians talk about, right? But
Talk
uh,
about, but don't do.
yeah, talk about but don't do. I want to walk alongside, and Jeff from Greenville, Texas, in America is not going to go solve the problems in Kenya or Dominican or Jordan or Pakistan or wherever, right? But what I can do is I can go and I can encourage, those pastors. I can walk alongside and be involved in the ministry that is already going on in country. So, like in building homes, we partner with House for a Home. It's a nonprofit out of Mansfield. It's kind of like the Tom Shoes model. So it's a realtor founded it. So sell a home, build a home type thing, and that's how that works. Nourishing the Nations out of Odessa, Texas, Emmanuel Baptist Church. They are feeding 25,000 kids a month. Partner with them. I'm not. It's not my intent to go in and add something new unless needed. Really, the only new thing that's being added is the entrepreneurial program.
Mhm.
And so that's. But we're still supporting the food, still supporting the water. We had a couple guys from Sweden there with us this time.
I love
Group.
Sweden.
Oh yeah, I want to go. Water Matters is the name of well, they're with Oasis Project, but another nonprofit has Water Matters. There's the water filters that purify the water. Took 150 water filters there and taught them how to backwash them and clean them. The last 10, 15 years, and it's funny because they would get the dirty water out of the puddle, right there during a demonstration, put it through that filter, and then those guys would drink it. They didn't hand it off to a Kenyan to drink; they drank it.
You
And
got to be pretty confident in your
yeah,
product.
got a confident product. So I'm partnering with people like that, and and I see myself as a connector of people, and if I can connect this person with this person or this ministry with this ministry, we can just get more eyes and ears and people involved and see how we can change the world, one person at a time. So
So you said you were recently in Kenya.
mhm,
I want to make sure I got that right.
that's
My
right.
brain kept going to Nigeria for some reason.
Yeah.
So I mean, apart from, doing these business endeavors with the locals, like what else you had a team with you?
Yeah. So we took 13 from Texas
Oh,
area.
13.
Yeah, 6 from Authentic Life Fellowship here, 7 from a church in Mansfield, TCAL Church in Mansfield, 2 from Sweden, and then 1 from Virginia. Those 2 from Sweden and 1 from Virginia, they were with the Oasis Project.
Hmm.
So they wanted to see what was going on in Kenya. They had heard about the ministry and what was happening, so they came along with us. They invested in a water well, put a water well in one of the areas. And so what we did mainly is obviously, teach and preach on Sunday, which is great. We did a family day. So we believe in, encouraging those that minister, because as it gets lonely if you don't have someone encouraging you and lifting you up. Pastors get lonely all the time, and I know that as a layperson. I see it every day. I see the wear and tear, the mental and emotional wear and tear on individuals. So we just spent the whole day. Pastors, bring your families, bring your kids. Y'all come, and we had a whole day just loving on them. Had a great meal. Had some gifts for them, had some, teaching and just singing time, just really just a full worship experience. So that's one thing that we always like to do, is just love on those who are working every single day. So we did that. Monday hit the ground running, build houses every day. One that stands out, it was a individual who was pastoring a small church, and his house was just falling down. Typically, a house can be built for about 800 US, and that's a 13 by 17 shelter, tin roof, door. It's very cheap, mudded walls. But he had 5 kids, or he has 5 kids, but he had adopted 12 other kids.
Wow. And how big is the room? It's really just a room.
Like 13 by 17. It's got 2 rooms. So what we're able to do, through some generosity of some folks that were there, build another house for them, and we doubled it. When you got 17 people living in a 13 by 17 house, that gets pretty crowded. So we're able to.
How many square feet that is?
Yeah, that's not a lot. It's not a lot. So that was a really cool moment. We didn't know that he had that many kids adopted, and sometimes our brain can't wrap around this. Sometimes, just the love that people show to others. You already have a hard time feeding and eating with your core family.
Mhm.
But you're gonna. So I said, how does this work? God's math never works, right?
Mhm.
So how does this work? And he said, well, they didn't have any other place, and he just brought them into their house, and God provides. And the faith of those individuals it's encouraging. Every time I go, my spirit is uplifted. I'm encouraged. What's going on, what God is doing around the world, and we get to bring a little bit of that back home. And hopefully we could show love like that to others. So build some houses, engage with a special needs school. So if you think about it, you've got the kids that are going to school, and they're paying to go to school. Some special needs kids don't go to school, but they're really getting the leftovers of the leftovers. So the team was able to bless them on, a bathroom that they can use, some sensory type learning material they can use. So,
things we take for granted.
Absolutely, things that we take for granted. So build homes. The water filters are 150 water filters that were that are being distributed across the area, and that's going to change people's lives. They get sick. They're drinking dirty water. It's all they have. And not only to put major water wells in it, the churches and some of the property that is owned by the church, we're able to do the individual water wells as well. So, and that was made possible by Oasis Project and a group called Water Matters out of Sweden.
So you talk about, I know you mentioned earlier briefly just about the grants, like how expansive is this effort to not just give grants, but to help? Is it just in Kenya? Are y'all working in other places?
Working out the kinks in Kenya. I have this vision, whether God, allows it to happen, is to take it to other places that I know, whether it be places that you go, or down in, the Dominican or Philippines. What I want to do is partner with existing people that are already doing work in places, instead of going in and starting something new. The initial thought process is to go to places that already have, relationships established, and see if it will work. It's being proven out that this is a good process, but my goal is to take it to other people. Now, I got to speak with Mike and things like that. Mike has written most of the material, well, all the material. Him and his son, and Mike would. I'm going to speak for Mike if he watches this. I don't think he'd be opposed to doing this across the world. So I'm going to hold you accountable, Mike, to that. But I think it's it's an opportunity to teach people how to fish, and all they need is a few basic principles. And it takes. Our church is named Authentic Life Fellowship because I'm just authentic, and it's frustrating. You've got to ask the question in multiple ways.
Yes,
to get the answer.
I
And
understand that.
my thing now is if I just say it's not their fault I didn't ask the right question. So I'm trying to ask the right questions to get to the root of what you're trying to get to. And sometimes well-meaning people over decades have gone in and they just give a wad of cash, and that actually ruins what we're trying to do because they're accustomed to just saying, well, just give me the money and I'll make it work. I know that's a harsh reality, but sometimes that's the way it is. And no, that's not what we want. We want, what's the market analysis? What's the P&L look like? What does this product cost? To make. What is your profit? And all these things, and it's kind of foreign concepts to them. So it takes a long time to do it. So you have to have patience, and my wife would be the first to say patience is not high on my list. So, but I'm glad I have Mike who has wonderful patience. So,
Now,
it's hard.
So all the people you're giving, not just grants to, but the ones you're exploring, the ones you're trying to work with, are these pastors? Because I didn't ask this question earlier, before we started recording, but are they pastors? Are they, people with ministries, or are they just people within the church who are also engaged in ministry? Like,
Sort of combination of both. We started with the pastor. So the pastors where we go don't get paid, in their churches, obviously. So they have to make a living outside of that. But yet these pastors are, they have their own their own core families, and they're adopting kids as well. So we wanted a way for them to kind of raise them up one economic level, if we can. So if you're already rice farming and you already know how to do it, perhaps we can come in, teach a few more principles, and then instead of farming on 1 to 3 acres, maybe they're now farming on 5 acres. So Nourishing the Nations feeds, I said, 20 to 20,000 kids a month. Well, they're buying rice, they're buying beans, they're buying maize flour, corn. So they're already buying these things. So why not grow it yourself instead of Nourishing Nations going to the market? They're just buying from, the pastors. It makes sense, right? Kind of a built-in customer. And as that ministry grows, so we started with the pastors, and not we have a couple city pastors, so we need to find work for them as well. One is a licensed electrician. He's getting his contractor's license, so he has a small business. So we're looking at a few that might be power tool rental. It could be electrical parts, something like that. But most of them, it's farming. So it has started with pastors. But there's an individual where they have a welding business. He was a welder by trade. We actually put a house in last year. His family had to move out of the house because the house was it just wasn't safe. So you had a family that was tore apart. A house was granted on the spot for that individual. So now the family's reconciled in the home. Found out he's a welder by trade. So a welder was granted to him, a few business principles around how to run your own business. So that was a person just outside of the church, but was connected with a pastor. So that was one. The tailoring school has ladies that come in, gets them off the street, and they're able to learn a trade. And when they graduate, they can take that and go to business on their own. Maybe some stay and work at the school for different things. So that's just ladies that need to support themselves because they've been widowed for some reason. So it's just not pastors, but it's not everyone has the ability or the drive to actually make it successful. So it's not anyone and everyone. It's that we kind of go through a vetting process. Do you have what it's going to take to actually run a business? Yeah, it's not everyone's small business owners in the U.S., right?
So why is this even important? I mean, why not just support the pastors? I mean, you were talking about a wad of cash, because I know a lot of people, they go places like Africa, they go to South Asia, they bring in a wad of cash, either to feed kids or support an orphanage. I mean, we have pastors here, and they're dependent on a salary from their church. They're not necessarily out. Very few of them are out there with a vocation. Very few are starting businesses. Now, the church I was just at, that I was speaking at a few days ago, he is bivocational. I was actually a little surprised because that's not very common.
All right.
Why even go this route? Why not just find ways to support the pastors that are there?
Pastors getting paid by the nonprofit is a government issue. We'll just say there's some government issues that would have to come into play, and that's what we want to avoid, or what the main ministry wants to avoid. But as they start businesses now, the goal is to not take them away from their primary role, which is preaching and teaching the gospel, equipping the saints and being a pastor of a church. But they need a way to support their family. So as their business grows, they hire other people within the community. Now, those individuals now have a job, and then that raises them up a little level. So now they're buying things in the marketplace from people that sell already. So we're actually raising the level of the community and just not one individual. Yeah, we can go in and give, here's some money to you, pastor, and just go do what you want. But that's helping them, but it's not helping the region. So we want to do something that's sustainable, long-term, generational impact where, yes, it might be a pastor that has a business that grows, that doubles in size, but now they've just hired people in their local, community to actually work there. So they have jobs. Those individuals now can buy things in the marketplace, and those individuals might go on and be able to get 2 acres to do their own rice farming that hire more individuals. It's a ripple effect, right? And that's what I see in my mind. You throw one pebble in the water, and that ripple effect. And 40 years, I don't know where this is going to be. If the Lord, tarries, who knows what this region will look like in 40 years.
So there's a video on YouTube, and I can't remember exactly. I think they call it bowls of rice, but I could be wrong. So don't quote me on that. But the concept is rice, rice farming. It's in northwest India. I think the Nagaland, Manipur area, the Manipur, Nagaland states of India. And this started over 100 years ago, where they were looking for, how do they support themselves? How do they support the pastors, the ministries, things like that. So they just started gathering. Everyone started contributing a little bit of rice, maybe a bowl of rice, throw it into a container, and then the church would sell it. They would take the income and use it for the church, for the ministry. And in some ways, that was the tithing, because the local people didn't really have cash. So in giving to the church, they gave rice. Well, fast forward 100 years, it's become almost a big enterprise. And I hate to use that word, but it's much bigger now. It's much more organized, but it's the still same concept, and they're still gathering rice. And they've got a whole system where they're selling rice all over the place. And they're fully funded churches and ministries that are completely funded. You could say locally funded.
Right.
So they don't need the outside sources to come in and save the day.
It's going to come from within. And I 100% agree, with that. It's most people, the majority of people that I come across in Kenya want to work. They're not sitting back. They just don't want a handout. They want a way to provide for their family. It's usually the region we're in is $1 to $2 a day, maybe income. It's a barter system for the most part. I grow corn, you grow sugarcane. Let's swap stuff out as we need it. A lot of offerings are grain related and food related that go to the church as well. What I see is it might take a level of donations today to help get them where they need to be, but eventually I want that to do this, where now they're more self-sufficient, less dependent upon foreign aid, and then that aid that you and I or anyone else is given, that goes to another place in the world. Instead of always giving the same amount here and nothing changes, I want that pendulum to shift. It will take a long time. It will take, God's timing is perfect. It'll be done tomorrow, but you know what I mean.
I like what you just said.
Consistency.
It's going to take a level of donations.
Yes.
Because if they're hungry, there seems to be 2 extremes. I find 2 camps. They're both extreme. One is we only help them establish businesses. We give them no money. I've seen that. I've seen ministries where their rule is we only preach the gospel. We never give them a dime because we hate dependency, which I would argue your missionaries are dependent.
That's right.
But that's a different story. Well, same story, just different context. The other flip side is you've got people who just throw cash at them and think that's the only way to solve the problem. And so you really have both extremes of I only give money and I refuse to give money. But as you were saying, it takes a level of donations to some degree. I was thinking, well, if they're hungry, they're not going to have the strength to actually, even the cognitive ability
Hmm.
to even process what it's going to take to build a business.
Right. And one of the things that we do when a home is gifted, there's also about 30 days supply of food that's gifted. So there's a home, there's a mattress, there's a blanket, there's a Bible, of course, there's um, some food that can, because you're absolutely right. If I got to get up every day and think about how I'm going to feed my family, that's all you're focused on. This gives just a little bit to take a breath, figure out what your next steps are, because now you don't have to worry tomorrow about this food. Now, another 30-day supply is not coming in 30 days. That's kind of the initial thing. Um, but it gives just a little bit of relief, right? To start thinking about these things. Now, the reality of what happens is it's not 30 days because they'll share with the people in their neighborhood, which is okay, which is awesome. Because
Their choice.
it's their choice, but it's about community too. And when it's time to mud homes, everyone muds the home. It's not that homeowner's responsibility. The community comes out and muds that home, because when it's their turn for their house to be remudded, the community helps them. So we also provide just some of that relief. So like what you're saying, they can think about the next step. And that was the intentional design of providing some sustenance, some food, so they can just think about, okay, what does next week look like? Because if I have to get up every morning and figure out how I'm going to go get some food, I'm not thinking about retirement 10 years down the road, right? I don't have that ability. So it's this whole ecosystem of what we're trying to do there. Immediate food for those who need it, immediate shelter for those who don't have it. Just think about what a home provides someone. It's safety, and it's shelter, and it's security, and all those type of things.
Sounds like for most, like to compare it to what we might look at here, it's really like the shed I have in the back of my house.
Oh yeah, it's very small, but it is the basic of basic homes in Kenya, but it's more than they have. If you think about it, if you make $1 or $2 a day, and this home, I mean, it's depending on what you put in it, $650 to $850, so $800 we say. I mean, that's real dollars that it costs in Kenya to build. So it's not like this is the U.S. cost, but it's $200 to build it in Kenya. No, that's what it costs. When you do the food, and you do the tin roof, and you do the door and a couple windows, for ventilation. So that person's never going to afford that. $2 a day, $1 a day maybe.
I mean, $60 a day at most, or $60 a month.
Yeah,
Really is
maybe.
maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe, because they may have a day they don't work or something,
Right.
and then you got to use that money to feed.
When we go to the grocery or go to the store to buy a Coke, or whatever, they're not upcharging, the American. That's what it costs there, and it's expensive. Food and things is expensive there. The likelihood of that widow coming up with money for a house is just not. It's just not. It's far beyond what they could even do. So, those who give to that ministry they're making a difference.
I actually like the complex. I usually want to use the word complexities, but it is a complex system of how you're serving them.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just not we walk in and we do this one thing and that's all we're ever going to do, and you have to deal with the rest of it. It's really looking at the big picture, like what do we need to invest donations into
Mhm.
that gives them immediate. I mean, you got to get them out of the elements. I mean,
Absolutely.
if they're stuck in the elements day in and day out, that wears on you. I mean, we may think, well, they should be able to do it themselves, but try to build. I mean, even a shed in our backyard costs more
Right.
than I know the shed I have in my backyard costs a lot more than what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And all I'm trying to do is house a lawnmower.
Right. And if you think back, and anyone watching this, you think back in your career, or anything that you've achieved, sometimes it's on your own ability, but all of us have been helped along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can look back at pivotal moments in my career where someone has helped me to give me a leg up. Not, I still have to do something with it, right? All of us receive help. And if even there, if they can just receive just a little bit of help, they'll be able to actually do it themselves next time. And that's our goal. That's our goal, is to, I don't want to keep helping the same person that's not going to do anything with it. I know that sounds cold, but give them an opportunity to breathe, and they will find a way. whatever that next step is. But
I mean, I don't see it as being cold,
mm-hmm.
because I get people all the time that'll come to me and say, can I have money for this? And my question to them is, what are you doing to help solve that problem? Like, what are you doing? And I get it. You don't have the ability to solve the whole
Mm-hmm.
problem, but what part are you playing in solving that problem?
Right.
Finding the money, getting the partners. And if the answer is, well, an excuse, I don't have it, or the churches aren't going to give it, well, then the answer is no. I'm not getting involved, because you're not really serious about solving the problem. I'm looking more of what their motivation is.
Mm-hmm.
Are they just wanting me to be the sugar daddy,
Right.
and to just come in and in their mind fix it, which, as we talked earlier, doesn't ever actually fix anything.
Right.
It just extends the problem.
It does, just extends it out. I find myself, and I always try to fall under the authority of the ministry that's already there, if that makes sense. It's like, I'm not trying to do something different. I'm there to walk alongside and help with what is already established. So Nourishing the Nations is the main ministry there. That's the mission house we stay in. They've got their nonprofit status in Kenya and the U.S. And it's we don't want to take away from their core. So we're always cognizant of the fact of, okay, we're adding different things, but let's not take away from the core of these pastors, which is their ability to preach and teach the gospel. We just want to enable them to do a little bit more. So all these things have come into play over the last 5 years. It's not complicated, but there's a lot of moving parts, and so it's just God is just orchestrating this thing. I firmly believe will have a generational impact.
See, I like these stories, and that's why I wanted you on here. And I didn't even know probably half of what you were talking. I mean, I heard some of the peripheral stuff over time, but I didn't know some of these details. I think when we're talking about missions and missionaries and working with pastors, we tend to think, okay, our job as American churches is to just send people.
Mm-hmm.
Long-term missionaries, American missionaries, we just send them out. That's our job.
Yep.
And we tend to forget that, the business people have a role, educators have a role, doctors have a role. It's just not the theologically trained. You are encouraging pastors, you are doing ministry, but you're also working it from the vantage point of what you're good at.
Right.
And you're just taking what God has allowed you to learn, the skills he's given you, natural and learned, and you're just applying it to a Great Commission context. It's not through a massive organization. It's just through a network of people in multiple countries. Obviously, I didn't even know about the Swedes.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, because there's not a lot of Christians in Sweden.
Yeah.
But the ones I've met in Sweden are pretty solid.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they're involved.
It's just amazing, what the Lord is, knitting together, and it's humbling actually. But
you said earlier, I just want to make myself available in retirement. It's okay, God, this part of my life is done with the job, but I don't want to play the retiree, just golfing, cruising on cruise boat.
Yeah.
That wasn't, and I know you go on vacations. You're not opposed to vacations.
No, vacations are great, but
but you wanted purpose in it.
Right.
I mean, when we lived in China, one of the things we learned, there seemed to be it just seemed to die young. And when I say young, they retire young. I mean, you retired pretty young.
Yeah.
I mean, for an American, you retired pretty young. But, in China, about 60 years old is general across the board retirement. And what we saw was that they didn't have a purpose. And vacationing wasn't a purpose. That was just enjoyment.
Yeah, that's just.
But their life seemed to just decline.
Right.
And their lifespan beyond retirement, apart from purpose, just didn't seem to last very long.
That a few years ago, I came off the field and in Kenya, and I had a heart attack, which is crazy, but I mean, we've got, genetics in our family, so I should have known it was coming. But it was on a Monday, and I think I've told you the story, but it's like, I said, Lord, if you give me Tuesday, it wasn't like, Lord, if you sustain, give me life, I'll serve you now. It was like, I'd just been in Kenya, just been serving, and I said, God, I want to do more of what you've allowed me to do in retirement. And that was my prayer. If you give me Tuesday, I just want to do more of what I've just finished doing. And of course, God gave me Tuesday,
And many more.
and many more. And I just want to keep doing what God, I'm available. I try to be obedient in what He wants me to do. And it's not, you don't forsake home for abroad. Acts 1:8, right? It's, we need to serve here, near, and far, right? My
But going to
theological summary.
Kenya doesn't necessarily affect, I mean, it doesn't negatively affect your work here or
No,
your ministry here,
no, it
and it
doesn't.
doesn't cancel it out.
No, it enhances it because we took from our church just alone, let's see, 4 had never been on a mission trip. That just exposes more to this aspect of the Christian walk. We're already commanded to go. In missions, you can either go, send, or be disobedient, and that kind of sums it up, right? Now, some go and send, I guess, but the foreign mission, short-term missions, going to Kenya, you may never be called to go to Kenya or Dominican or Jordan or India or wherever, right? God lays that on your heart, and you should go. And I'll also say, if God says don't go to Kenya and you go, you're being disobedient. You just need to be obedient. If He says go across the street, go across the street.
And I'll just
Uh,
point out, I mean, being around Authentic Life Fellowship for however long it's been, and I was trying to think of what the name was before. It was Authentic Life.
it was Fairview Baptist.
Fairview Baptist, that's right, because y'all were just around the corner.
Yeah,
But it was, I mean, this has been a desire of Jimmy's for a long time
Mm-hmm.
to see this happening out of his church. But it was a long process. It wasn't quick. I mean, and I'm only saying that for like if there's pastors or churches thinking, oh, this isn't working. I'm trying in my church to get people involved. This has been talked about for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a slow progression, but it's finally bearing some fruit.
Right.
I mean, it has for a couple of years now, but even more now.
Yeah.
But it's taken time.
Yeah, so I see myself. I'm not, like I said, I'm not retiring to the golf course, and I'm not gonna do that. It's just not me. My goal is to take people to expose them to missions, whether it's local, whether it's across this country or across the world. And I'm happy to take people and to places I already know, and I've already said, we need to partner together. I need to take a team with you one day, which would be awesome.
I've been waiting for years.
I know. Well, the thing is for anyone out there that is either contemplating retirement or about to retire, I know I had this successful career, and the mission effort. I still worked at the church locally and supported missions, but I just really couldn't go because it just didn't. I wasn't available at the time. But now I have the time, and my desire is to go, and God has put this in my heart to go. And I would just say, be obedient and go. And if God has gifted you with the ability to go, the health or the resources or whatever the case is, just do it, and you won't regret it. It's the same thing we do with entrepreneurship. It's find something you already know and let's try and develop that into a ministry. It's the skills. I'm not theologically trained. I'm a pretty simple theologian, but I just want to be
You're just a
willing.
fisherman on the seashore.
Yeah, just want to be willing, obedient, and God has gifted me with a set of skills in the business world, and to kind of see things the way they are, and act and connect people, and I just want to be obedient and use that. So I talk about this stuff all the time, and it could be in a coffee shop, I could be on vacation somewhere, and just connect ministries together, and that's what I have a heart to do. And I don't want to reinvent anything. There's probably enough ministries already. Let's just support those that are already doing the work.
And you just want to use it to help people to find their path, find how they're going to be involved.
Inform, inspire, and involve. That's what we do at Your Turn Ministry. So
Yep.
There's a lot of generous people in the world. There's a lot of opportunities in the world. I want to connect those two together, in some way. And what happens when generous people want to give, they sort of default to some of the major, larger corporate giving things because they don't know anything else. And that's okay. I'm not saying that that's wrong at all, but this gives, when you partner with smaller ministries, it's more hands-on, it's more intimate. You get to kind of see what's going on, and I won't take anyone to a place that I haven't been.
Get to know the people.
That's right. I mean, I trust you, so I would go to wherever you're going because I trust you because we have this relationship, And hopefully someone out there trusts me and say, hey, let's support this ministry because I vetted it. You know, it's kind of, what is it, the blue check mark or whatever they have.
Check the
It's,
box, or
uh,
yeah,
social media, you know, it's been
yeah.
verified or whatever.
You got the blue check on missions.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
Certain mission opportunities, yes.
I love that you're doing it. I love that you're using retirement the way you have. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, Paul the Apostle, yeah, sure. He, you know, initially before him and Barnabas were sent out, it was the elders. They all got together, they prayed, and they kind of had to discern who was going to be going out. And of course, it was Paul and Barnabas. But you know, once they were sent, and you could say the church gave the thumbs up. You could say they just went. Paul didn't always go in the right direction. I mean,
Yeah.
At one point there was, and I'll just use the modern day names, but he was going in the direction of Istanbul in Turkey. And it uses the word of Satan prevented him from going in, but God's plan was really for him not to go to Turkey or to Istanbul or in that direction, but to take a left and go westward. But the point is, the reason I bring that up, it wasn't a bad decision. The bad decision would have been not to put 2 feet in front of each other.
That's right.
And so the key is just moving forward. You don't even have to know where you're going to end up at first. You just got to move. You can't wait for the sky riders to show up in your in the sky above you to tell you which direction to go. Because I honestly think a lot of Christians, we're waiting for that. We're waiting for those sky riders to just show up.
Right.
When I keep saying, well, I'm waiting for the opportunity. Well, what do you mean? You keep hearing opportunities. They're there.
They're there.
Your church has them. Just do one.
Just
don't even. And I hate to say this because people will say, well, I can't believe you just said that. Don't even pray about it. Just say, where do you need help? Because I don't know where I need to be. Okay, I'll go there. That's what I did.
Yeah.
When I first started out, you know, they came, hey, there's a need in youth. Okay, I'll do youth ministry. College ministry. Okay, I did college ministry. A friend of mine came up to me once in 1999, said, I'm going to the homeless shelter in Arlington, Texas. Will you come with me? Sure.
Sure.
So I didn't go home. I was, Lord, do you want me to do this? Is this your will?
We already
Just go.
We already had the command to go.
I went, and the funny thing is, after going there, I saw the need, and I just naturally went back to my church, to the college ministry, because we had a really big college ministry. And I just said, look, guys, we need some help. Every Sunday night, we're going to go. We need security. We need people serving food. We need people hanging out with kids. Will you come? And suddenly we have anywhere between 20 and 40 of the students show up.
It's the opportunity. Some people just don't. When the opportunities, some people will rise to the occasion. So, in our mission field, and I know there's people out there that probably say, why do you go over there when people right here in the U.S. need help or, need Jesus and all that. Daryl, a friend of mine who was in Kenya, he did a little devotion lesson on the soles of your feet. Wherever the soles of your feet are, that's your mission field. If it's in Kenya, great. If it's in Greenville, Texas, if it's in South Carolina, North Carolina, wherever it is, that's your field. Just be faithful and do what God wants you to do in your field, whatever that is. So wherever you are, that's your mission field.
And when it's time to go to a place like Kenya, it's going to make sense.
Right.
That's been my experience. When it was China for me, Kenya for you, it always just makes sense. It's like the natural progression of our ministry. And it didn't end my ministry in Arlington at the time. Now, eventually it did, but that was a progression as well.
Over time.
But it was a progressive evolution. I don't want to sound liberal there.
Yeah.
It was an evolution of my ministry. Went from all local, because at that time I would say the same thing. Why would you go to China? We've got lost people here. But the reality was, it's not about here or there in the end. It's just start serving. God's gonna show you. And I truly believe if you're moving forward and you're truly serving Him, not just going through a habit, I don't think you're going to stay put where you're at.
No, He's going to move you around.
And you may live in the same place like you live in Greenville, but your ministry has slowly over time expanded.
My philosophy is go. Just take that step and allow God to course correct. It's been a fun ride. So this will be 5 years in next week. Now, when I first started, though, it's kind of funny because I thought I'd touch a lot of different ministries and be shallow. you know, I look back now, that wasn't my plan. It was like, I want to do this, 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 and this. I have all this time because I'm wired to do a lot of stuff at one time. And, but you know, we had the conversation that, you know, it's time for me to start focusing a little bit more. So now I'm going deeper in areas, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for a season. I don't know how long the season will last. I'm sure the Lord will. You've kind of done some stuff here. Now I want you to go over here and do it, and that's okay. So you just got to be willing and able to go where the Lord wants you to go.
Well, Jeff, thanks for joining me today. It was a great conversation. I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help people as they listen to you. I think when people listen to someone who comes from the secular world, secular business world, it resonates with them as they're wrestling with, should I get involved? Can I get involved? And of course, how do I get involved? Mm-hmm. So I think you had a lot of wisdom in what you shared with. So thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. I appreciate it.
So with that said, thank you for listening and watching, whichever one you were doing, to this episode today. And I would just encourage you, on whatever platform you're listening or watching us, please subscribe so you don't miss out on further episodes. And while you're at it, I would just encourage you, go to our YouTube side of this podcast and comment and leave comments for us so we can engage, because that's where we engage better, is on YouTube. So go there, leave a comment, ask questions, or send us a note, however you want. Go to our website at livingenviado.com. You can contact me that way. I would love to know what kind of content you would love to hear on this Living Enviado podcast. And if you're listening on another platform other than YouTube, please leave a positive rating if you love what you're hearing. So again, thank you for following us on this podcast. And like I always do, like I always want to challenge all of us to do, don't forget to go out in your community, go out into the world, live sent, live Enviado.